The Galactic Coalition was a tapestry of advanced civilizations, each priding itself on centuries of wisdom, technology, and warfare experience. For generations, the Coalition's most daunting trial had been the 10-year war simulation, a virtual battleground meant to train future leaders. The simulation was no mere exercise. It was a crucible that pushed participants to their limits, requiring mastery of diplomacy, logistics, and combat strategy. No species had ever conquered it in less than a year. Most failed outright. On the day humanity entered the arena, skepticism rippled through the council chambers. Humans, a recent addition to the galactic stage, were infamous for surviving on a death world, a hostile, high-gravity planet filled with predators, diseases, and volatile ecosystems. But surviving didn't mean thriving, and few in the coalition took them seriously. For cadets represented humanity. They weren't military veterans, nor were they seasoned diplomats. They were young, untested, and, to many, reckless. Their names were of no importance to the coalition. What mattered was their audacity. When asked how long they thought they'd last, the strategist of the group leaned forward and said, "Under 12 hours. The council chamber erupted in laughter. "No one completes the simulation in under a year," one alien general scoffed, their bioluminescent tentacles trembling with amusement. "Your overconfidence will be your undoing." The humans didn't flinch. They weren't there to win respect through words. They had a point to prove. As the cadets entered the simulation chamber, the coalition's elite gathered to observe. The simulation was notorious for its brutal opening scenario, a sudden, overwhelming attack that crushed even seasoned teams. The humans stood before a simulated star map, the strategist at its center. Around them, holograms depicted vast fleets, supply lines, and the distant, flickering lights of neutral factions ripe for exploitation. The simulation began. Instantly, alarms blared. An enemy fleet surged into their sector, its firepower overwhelming. The typical response was retreat. Alien cadets always prioritized defense and consolidation. Humans, however, didn't play by the rules. The Maverick, a risk-taker by nature, suggested a bold maneuver: lure the enemy into an asteroid field riddled with volatile debris. The engineer quickly modified mining drones into kamikaze units, repurposing their drilling lasers to destabilize the asteroids. Meanwhile, the diplomat initiated communications with a nearby neutral faction, offering them a deal: weapon schematics in exchange for reinforcements. Within minutes, the enemy fleet was obliterated. The council chamber fell silent. This wasn't a retreat. This was annihilation. The strategist spoke calmly to their team. Phase 1 complete. Let's move. They didn't stop to celebrate. Their focus was absolute. The coalition's observers exchanged uneasy glances. These humans were unlike anything they'd seen. Alien cadets tended to deliberate endlessly, but humans thrived on chaos. Their adaptability wasn't a flaw, it was their strength. As the simulation progressed, whispers spread among the coalition leaders. What had they unleashed? In a mere 30 minutes, humanity had done what took others months. They had seized the initiative. The galaxy had underestimated them, and it would pay for its mistake. The simulation expanded as the human cadets pushed forward, entering territories fraught with escalating complexity. Where other species relied on meticulous preparation and rigid adherence to protocols, the humans leaned into their greatest strength: adaptability. Every new challenge seemed designed to crush their momentum, but the cadets dismantled each with startling efficiency. The first major hurdle was an artificial resource crisis. Key supply routes were blocked by a simulated environmental disaster, cutting off vital energy reserves. Standard coalition doctrine would have dictated a slow and methodical rebuilding of infrastructure, but the engineer had no patience for conventional thinking. "We don't need the reserves," they said, pulling up a schematic of the nearest automated mining colony. "We just need their tools." While most teams would focus on restoring supply lines, the humans hijacked mining drones and refitted them into scavenger units. Within hours, the cadets had built a mobile fleet of resource-gathering machines that moved with their forces, circumventing the crisis entirely. Meanwhile, The strategist identified weak points in the simulation's AI governing enemy fleet movements. Unlike organic foes, the AI followed predictable patterns based on statistical probabilities. The strategist exploited this by staging phantom attacks in sectors far from their actual position, forcing the enemy to divide its forces. What should have been a unified, overwhelming offensive dissolved into manageable skirmishes. The diplomat's role became critical as neutral factions emerged on the galactic map. These factions were notoriously hard to sway, often programmed to resist overtures until trust was painstakingly built. But the diplomat understood something the simulation hadn't accounted for. Humans excelled at emotional leverage. In one instance, the diplomat contacted a faction of isolated traitors. Instead of offering standard terms, they played to the faction's fears, subtly implying that the simulated enemy intended to wipe them out next. The traitors, desperate for protection, agreed to join the human alliance, providing a crucial influx of ships and resources. As the humans advanced, the Mavericks' unorthodox tactics came into play. At one point, they proposed a high-risk maneuver, baiting an enemy fleet into chasing their ships through a solar storm. The coalition observers were horrified. A single miscalculation would result in the destruction of their entire force. But the Maverick was undeterred. "I'm not here to play it safe," they said, initiating the plan. The result was devastating for the simulation's AI. While the storm wreaked havoc on both fleets, the humans emerged with minimal losses, their smaller ships better suited to navigate the chaos. The enemy, unable to adapt, was obliterated. The coalition leaders watched in disbelief. Each move the cadets made defied traditional logic, yet every decision yielded results. The humans weren't just surviving, they were thriving in conditions meant to break them. By the end of this phase, it was clear that humanity wasn't playing the simulation, it was rewriting its rules. What had started as a test of endurance had become a showcase of human ingenuity, leaving the observers both awed and unnerved. The simulation escalated into its most punishing stages. Entire regions of space erupted into full-scale war, forcing the cadets to navigate a web of simultaneous crises. Most species would have faltered under the sheer weight of complexity, but for the humans, this was familiar ground. Chaos wasn't an obstacle, it was an opportunity. The first major obstacle came in the form of a simulated betrayal. A faction the humans had painstakingly allied with turned against them, a scripted event designed to test loyalty and resourcefulness. The strategist had anticipated this. Rather than being caught off guard, they had laid a trap. "Let them think they've blindsided us," the strategist said. "We'll use their own aggression against them." As the traitorous faction launched its assault, they found themselves ensnared in an ambush. The humans had mined key routes, forcing the enemy fleet into a narrow corridor where they were systematically dismantled. What was intended to be a devastating betrayal ended with the humans seizing control of their former allies' resources. But the simulation wasn't done testing them. The next crisis emerged when the cadets encountered a resource blockade. The simulated enemy had established a defensive grid so extensive that breaking through conventionally would take weeks, time the cadets didn't have. The engineers studied the grid schematics. "We don't need to break through it," they said. "We just need to make it irrelevant." Within hours, the team had constructed a series of decoys, small, automated ships emitting false signals. The decoys simulated the signatures of a massive fleet, drawing enemy forces away from the blockade. While the defenders scrambled to intercept the non-existent threat, the humans slipped through unnoticed, striking critical supply points behind enemy lines. The coalition observers were astounded. Every solution the humans employed was unconventional, yet brutally effective. Where others saw walls, humans found cracks. The simulation, recognizing the cadets' momentum, introduced its final gambit, an overwhelming armada. This fleet dwarfed anything the cadets had faced, its numbers so vast that even the most efficient strategies would result in catastrophic losses. The coalition leaders leaned forward, certain this would be the humans' undoing. But the Maverick grinned as they analyzed the fleet's formation. "They're big. That just means they're slow." The humans deployed a tactic so audacious it bordered on reckless. Using their fastest ships, They launched a feint deep into enemy territory, forcing the massive fleet to divert its path. At the same time, the diplomat leveraged alliances to coordinate a multi-pronged assault on the enemy's supply lines. By the time the armada reached its intended position, it was starved of resources and cut off from reinforcements. The cadets struck decisively, dismantling the remnants with surgical precision. The simulation began to falter. Its algorithms, designed to adapt, couldn't account for the humans' ability to think laterally. The coalition leaders were silent as the cadets systematically dismantled the final challenges, leaving no room for error. In a matter of hours, the humans had turned what was meant to be an insurmountable trial into a definitive victory. The simulation ended abruptly, its systems halting as if in disbelief. The final battle had been a masterclass in precision, audacity, and ruthless efficiency. The humans had completed what was supposed to be a decade-long war scenario in less than 10 hours. The coalition observers were silent, their earlier skepticism replaced by a stunned, uneasy respect. For centuries, they had relied on the simulation to forge their leaders, to test the boundaries of strategy and endurance. It had been considered unbeatable, a testament to the complexity of galactic warfare. Yet here were the humans, walking out of the chamber with calm expressions, as if what they had accomplished was routine. The strategist spoke first when questioned. The simulation wasn't flawed. It's just predictable. You designed it to test what you value: patience, caution, adherence to doctrine. But humans don't think that way. We adapt, we innovate, and we take risks when it matters. The diplomat stepped forward, addressing the room with measured words. This wasn't about proving humans are better. It's about showing what we bring to the table. Diversity in thought is what strengthens alliances. You built a simulation based on what you know. We succeeded because we approached it from a perspective you didn't expect. The maverick, ever bold, leaned against a console and smirked. Let's be real. The galaxy thought we were a joke, a species too chaotic, too reckless to matter. Now you know better. The engineer, who had been silent until now, added, "What you call chaos, we call creativity. We don't see barriers, we see opportunities. That's what makes us dangerous." The coalition leaders deliberated, their expressions a mixture of admiration and fear. Completing the simulation wasn't just an achievement, it was a declaration. Humanity had arrived, and it wouldn't be ignored. Among the alien factions, reactions were varied. Some saw humanity as a threat, an unpredictable wild card capable of destabilizing the carefully balanced coalition. Others saw an opportunity, a potential ally with a unique perspective and unmatched problem-solving skills. Quiet offers of alliances began to circulate, whispers of partnerships to harness this newfound power. The cadets, however, weren't interested in basking in their victory. They spoke among themselves as they exited the chamber, already discussing improvements to their strategies and analyzing the few minor mistakes they'd made. To them, this wasn't the pinnacle of their abilities, it was a starting point. One observer, a veteran of countless campaigns, finally broke the silence. "They've rewritten the rules," he said. "If this is what their cadets can do, imagine what their fleets will accomplish." As the humans left the chamber, the coalition leaders were left to grapple with a single, inescapable truth. Humanity wasn't just another player on the galactic stage. They were a force of nature, a catalyst for change in a galaxy that had grown complacent. The galaxy would never be the same. And as the cadets departed, one of them turned back, a glint of determination in their eyes. "This is only the beginning."